3 days after setting out on their journey, Jin and his fellow Runcandel cadets arrive at the freezing southern border region. Their official mission is to search for the missing heir of the Zhan Kingdom's Veal family in a town called Sember-Veal. As the leader of the operation, Jin takes full command. He establishes a clear set of rules for the team. They will set up a main base camp at the center of the border, split into search parties, and send a messenger back to camp once a day to share information. He tells everyone to call him Commander instead of Young Master while on the field, and orders the injured to stay behind at camp to rest and recover. While searching through the snowy forest, Jin's group encounters members of the Watertail tribe, a gentle race of beastmen known for avoiding predators and staying out of human conflicts. Seeing how frail and poor they look, Jin acts calmly toward them. One cute little water beast man even steps forward and offers Jin a roasted fish on a stick. Jin accepts the gift with a warm smile, promising to repay the kind gesture later. Looking over his map, Jin assesses the situation carefully. Beyond Zone 13 lies dangerous Beastman territory, where basic rank cadets would be hopelessly outmatched. Rather than recklessly rushing into danger just to get quick results, Jin decides he will take the next 3 days to personally verify every searched area himself.
Suddenly, crunching footsteps break the silence. Bellup comes running through the deep snow, out of breath and yelling for Jin. He delivers grave news. The second group of cadets has been ambushed. Jin immediately orders his forces to prepare for movement and demands to know what happened. Bellup explains that the second group scattered to evade the enemy, and only one cadet managed to crawl back to base camp to deliver the report. When Jin asks if the Beastmen attacked them, Bellup shakes his head. The attackers were humans, at least 3 of them. Jin instantly realizes something is wrong. No sane group would attack Runcandel cadets with only 3 people, meaning there must be more enemies hiding nearby.
Jin acts quickly. He commands Eddington and David to return to the base camp and guard its perimeter. He gives them strict orders. If they discover any enemies, they are forbidden from making contact and must report back immediately. Jin then rushes toward the scene of the ambush alongside Bellup and Sierra. Along the way, he ponders why the ambushers chose to target the second group instead of his own team. Arriving at the location, Bellup panics when he sees fresh blood pooled on the snow, fearing everyone in the second group was slaughtered. Jin kneels down and analyzes the ground with absolute composure. He reassures Bellup that the blood is fresh, but there are no bodies or severed flesh. Examining the footprints, Jin deduces that the second group was initially attacked by a single assailant and managed to run away. Sierra then discovers a piece of abandoned, blood-stained bandage nearby, identifying it as a product from Hewfester. Jin puts the clues together. While the second group was treating their wounded after the first surprise attack, a second ambusher attacked them, forcing them to flee west. Jin sends Sierra back to regroup with Eddington and David, while he and Bellup sprint toward the west. Soon, the sharp sound of clashing steel echoes through the trees. The second group is actively fighting off masked ambushers. Scanning the battlefield, Jin notices that Mesa is nowhere to be seen, and another enemy has joined the fight. Knowing every second counts, Jin instructs Bellup to close his eyes and count to 2 before attacking the enemy on the left. Jin then draws his blade and channels his secret weapon, Shadow Energy. Recalling the lessons taught to him by Murakan, Jin coats his sword in dark energy. The Shadow Energy drastically increases the sharpness and lethal power of his blade while hiding its physical presence. In a blur of movement, Jin strikes with terrifying speed, cleanly slashing through one ambusher before the enemy even realizes what hit him. Bellup opens his eyes and swoops in right on cue, overwhelming the second attacker. Together, they quickly rescue the remaining cadets. Jin checks on his team. The cadets are injured but alive, but they deliver heartbreaking news. The enemies captured Mesa. Jin steps over to the surviving masked ambusher lying beaten on the snow. The man trembles in terror and begs for mercy.
Jin stares down at him with cold, terrifying eyes and gives him two brutal choices. Option 1, spill his affiliation, objective, and base location and die alone. Or Option 2, keep his mouth shut, and Jin will hunt down and slaughter everyone related to him. Jin swears on his own name, Jin Runcandel, and his family honor that he always keeps his promises. Terrified by Jin's overwhelming aura, the ambusher breaks immediately. He reveals that he belongs to a radical revolutionary organization known as Kinzello. Jin's mind races. In his previous life, Kinzello was an infamous terrorist group responsible for assassinating the king of Jin and slaughtering countless innocent people in their twisted quest to conquer the world. Jin asks if they attacked the cadets to instigate chaos in the kingdom of Jin. The ambusher confesses that he is only a low-ranking member who doesn't know the main base, but their regional branch located at the entrance of the Beastmen territory contains around 20 4-star martial artists and mages. Jin asks his final question. Why did they kidnap Mesa? The ambusher stammers that they were ordered to capture female trainees alive for propaganda, using them to advertise their revolution. Hearing their disgusting motives, Jin keeps his promise. With a single swift motion, he draws his sword and cuts down the ambusher, ending his life cleanly so his family won't be targeted. Learning that Mesa was taken only an hour ago, Jin knows the kidnappers must still be near the entrance of the Beastman territory. He turns to his cadets and orders them to administer first aid to themselves and immediately send a request for reinforcements back to the main Runcandel estate. The cadets panic, protesting that facing 20 4-star combatants all by himself is suicide. But Jin shuts them down with unyielding authority. He reminds them that when a cadet is captured, a son of Runcandel cannot stand idly by and do nothing. He warns them that any further argument will be deemed insubordination, declaring that he is far stronger than any of them realize. Jin turns to Bellup, the strongest active cadet left, and tells him to stay sharp and lead the team. Without waiting another moment, Jin dashes off into the snowy forest alone, pushing his body to its absolute limits as he prays that he won't be too late to save Mesa. Jin dashes through the dark, quiet forest, moving like a phantom among the trees. He knows the Kinzello mercenaries who abducted Mesa haven't gotten far yet. As he moves, he quickly calculates his current strength and the odds against him. The enemy forces consist of about 20 soldiers, all trained around the 4-star level. On the other hand, Jin's own swordsmanship is at 3-star, his magic is at 4-star, and his shadow energy release is around 3-star. It is incredible progress for someone his age, but taking on an entire squad of 4-star warriors head-on all at once would be reckless. Because his primary goal is to save Mesa safely, Jin decides to avoid unnecessary combat and focus entirely on tracking. He extends his hand, summoning a glowing green magic circle. He casts a specialized spell called Terrain Detection, sending a grid of magical light spreading across the forest floor. Combining this with wind tracking magic, he senses the movement of the wind pushing toward a nearby meadow. Following the magical wind current, Jin quickly locates the path the enemies took. But before he can slip past unnoticed, a group of Kinzello sentries spots him leaping through the trees. Surprised to see a lone boy wearing Runcandel attire, they shout out to get him. But Jin doesn't slow down for even a second. Swirling green wind magic around his body and sword, he glides through the air and slices through the attackers in the blink of an eye. The mercenaries are thrown into utter disbelief. The Runcandel family is famous throughout the world for pure swordsmanship and absolute hatred for magic. Yet here is a Runcandel cadet using high-level spells with terrifying speed. Panicking, a hooded enemy mage steps forward and hurls a massive burst of fire magic directly at Jin.
Without flinching, Jin uses his swift movements to redirect and disperse the flames. Seeing his fire fail, the mage grits his teeth in desperation and switches elements, firing sharp, deadly spears of ice straight toward Jin. But Jin moves faster. He shatters the ice spell effortlessly, closing the distance in a fraction of a second. Before the terrified mage can even process what is happening, Jin cuts him down, leaving the remaining scouts lifeless on the ground. Inspecting the ground, Jin notices heavy wagon tracks and clear footprints. He shakes his head at how careless they are. The Kinzello mercenaries aren't even bothering to hide their trail, clearly underestimating a young cadet with little field experience. Knowing Kinzello operates under a strict hierarchy, Jin realizes the leader will want to claim Mesa as a prize for a higher-ranking boss. That means Mesa is likely still unharmed, but time is running out. Tracking the wagon, Jin arrives at the edge of the Beastman territory, where Kinzello has set up a temporary wooden outpost. To rescue Mesa without fighting the entire base at once, Jin decides to cause absolute chaos. Gathering intense fire magic into his hand, he unleashes a wave of roaring flames, setting the perimeter of the enemy fortress ablaze. Within moments, alarms blare and flames engulf the wooden structures. Mercenaries scramble in utter confusion, shouting for water to put out the sudden inferno. The Kinzello mercenary leader stomps out, furious at his men's incompetence. He yells for their mages to use water and ice magic immediately, quickly realizing that a normal fire couldn't possibly spread this fast in this weather. He realizes an intruder is behind this. From the shadows, Jin marks the leader. While the leader is screaming orders, Jin slips right behind him. Before the leader can finish his sentence, Jin strikes from the smoke, instantly neutralizing him without making a single extra sound. Using the panic as cover, Jin slips inside the main building. The interior is quiet and chilly. Searching the rooms, Jin discovers a hidden wooden trapdoor leading down into a dark basement. He opens it and rushes down the stairs, finding Mesa bound with heavy ropes on the stone floor. Mesa looks up in shock, her eyes wide as she sees Jin standing there. She stammers, asking why the young master would risk his life to come to such a dangerous place for her. Jin calmly steps forward and cuts her bindings with his blade, asking if she can walk. Mesa admits she can walk, but running might be difficult. Jin offers her a hand, telling her not to worry. Suddenly, the ground violently trembles. Heavy, thunderous booms echo from above as the roof structure above them begins to crack and fall apart. Sensing the overwhelming danger approaching, Mesa panics. She looks at Jin with absolute loyalty, begging him to promise one thing. If things get truly dangerous, he must leave her behind and save himself, because his life as a Runcandel is far too important. Jin immediately shuts down her self-sacrificing words, telling her that's enough and insisting they leave together. Before they can make a step toward the exit, the entire wall and ceiling burst open in an explosion of wood and stone. Out of the dust steps a massive, terrifying monster, a giant beastman warrior from the White Wolf tribe, wielding a gigantic battle axe. The pressure radiating from the beastman is suffocating. Mesa immediately moves her body to stand in front of Jin, shouting that she will stall for time so he can escape. But Jin knows she would die in a single second. Moving swiftly, Jin taps the back of Mesa's neck, knocking her unconscious so she won't throw her life away. He catches her gently and sets her down safely. The White Wolf Beastman looks down at the scene, clicking his tongue in disgust. He growls that the useless Kinzello mercenaries deserve to die if they couldn't even put out a simple fire. Then, turning his glowing eyes toward Jin, he asks if a mere child was responsible for all this destruction. Jin stands tall, drawing his sword. Shadow energy and magical aura erupt around his body, filling the room with an intense, deadly atmosphere. Looking the massive wolf warrior straight in the eye, Jin declares his name with total confidence, stating that he is Chiron Runcandel's son, Jin Runcandel, and demands the Beastman state his name in return. The White Wolf Beastman grins ferociously, realizing he is facing a true bloodline of the legendary Swordmaster family. A few days before setting out on his mission to the Jin Kingdom, Jin was training inside the Runcandel family estate. Standing alone in the room, he focused his concentration on his blade, trying to draw out and awaken the dark shadow energy sleeping within it. But before he could take it any further, Murakan suddenly burst in, kicking Jin straight to the floor. Furious, Murakan grabbed Jin by the collar and called him a total idiot with a death wish. He warned Jin that his body was still far too inexperienced to handle that kind of burden. If he tried to force the sword to awaken with his current lack of shadow energy, he would end up intoxicated by the dark power and die from an overdose. Seeing the genuine danger, Jin had no choice but to promise he wouldn't try it again. Back on the battlefield, Jin stood face to face with a towering, white-furred beastman. The beastman laughed boastfully, declaring that today would mark the greatest hunt of his life. He introduced himself as Kuwajito Truka, a proud warrior of the White Wolf tribe. The White Wolf tribe was legendary across the continent as a race born solely for battle and bloodshed, with every fully grown adult boasting the combat power of at least a 6-star warrior. Even worse, the entire tribe harbored a deep, burning hatred toward the Runcandel family. Generations ago, the first patriarch of Runcandel had invited their revered wolf god, Javier, only to betray and slaughter him. Looking at the massive beastman, Jin realized running away was impossible, especially with Mesa lying incapacitated nearby. Kuwajito gave Jin a simple choice: engage in an honorable duel or run away like a coward and be torn to shreds. Without a hint of fear, Jin raised his blade and accepted the challenge, earning a brief nod of respect from the giant wolf.
Kuwajito lunged forward, swinging his massive warhammer with terrifying force. When Jin raised his sword to block the incoming strike, the sheer physical power behind the blow sent shockwaves through his entire body, instantly pushing him to his absolute limits. Jin quickly analyzed the 3 secret trump cards he possessed: his sister's protective pendant, his magic, and his shadow energy.
Relying on his sister's pendant against an opponent of this level felt like a waste, as Jin knew that if he couldn't overcome this threat on his own, he would never have what it takes to become truly strong. Magic was also useless in this situation. His 4-star spells were nowhere near powerful enough to pierce the thick, durable hide of a White Wolf warrior. Furthermore, any lingering traces of mana would easily be detected by the clan's guardian knights during the post-battle investigation, exposing his forbidden secret to the entire Runcandel family. That left him with only one possible solution: shadow energy, and the dangerous act of releasing his sword. As Kuwajito charged in to deliver the finishing blow, Jin closed his eyes and recalled the deep sensations from that fateful night. He gathered the dark aura within him and channeled it directly into the blade. In a split second, a suffocating veil of pitch-black shadows erupted, completely engulfing the battlefield. Kuwajito was instantly blinded by the darkness, panicking as his vision disappeared into a sea of shadow lines. Moving through the dark like a phantom, Jin swung his black-cloaked blade in a clean, blinding flash, carving deep across the beastman's chest. Kuwajito collapsed onto the shattered earth, gasping in utter shock before losing consciousness. The fight was won, but the price for using that forbidden power was immediate. The unstable shadow energy ran wild throughout Jin's body, causing excruciating pain to shoot through his veins. Hallucinations of shadowy, mocking voices surrounded his mind, ridiculing him as a disgrace to the clan and a useless failure. Through the haze of agony, Murakan's stern voice echoed clearly in his thoughts. Jin knew that if he lost consciousness now, the dark energy would completely consume him. Gritting his teeth and fighting through the intense nausea and pain, Jin focused every shred of mental strength to stabilize the dark aura and perform the shadow release technique properly. After several exhausting attempts, the chaotic energy finally subsided, leaving his body heavily strained but intact. Just as Jin tried to catch his breath, he heard a sudden rustling sound coming from the nearby rubble. Jin immediately raised his sword and demanded to know who was hiding there. From behind the broken stones, a trembling young blonde man emerged, with his hands raised, crying and begging for his life. In sheer panic, the young man shouted that he was Sember Vil, from the Jin Kingdom's Vil family. Lowering his blade, Jin calmly introduced himself as Jin Runcandel, explaining that he had been dispatched specifically to find and rescue him. Realizing that the legendary Runcandels were here to save him, Sember burst into tears of overwhelming joy and relief. Watching the young noble weep with gratitude, Jin couldn't help but feel a little guilty, realizing that amidst the chaos of fighting Kinzello, he had almost completely forgotten about the rescue target. With an unconscious Mesa carried safely on his back, Jin looks down at the terrified young nobleman standing before him. Jin asks how a noble like him ended up captured by a dangerous organization like the Kinzello. Sember reveals a shocking story. He was lured into the wilderness because he followed the woman he loved. But the chilling truth is that his lover died 2 years ago. Even so, the woman he encountered had the exact same face, the exact same voice, and even the 2 distinct moles on her wrist. Hearing this, Jin immediately figures out the truth. This bizarre encounter must be the work of Bouberet Gaston, a notorious artisan with the power of complete physical transformation. Kinzello must have used Bouberet's disguises to kidnap Sember for ransom. Since Bouberet's workshop is located in the capital of the Corano Principality, Jin decides he will find a way to investigate him in person once he enters the intermediate training class. When Sember assumes the Runcandel Guardian Knights mobilized across the land just to save his life, Jin casually bursts his bubble, bluntly explaining that the reinforcements only came to rescue Mesa. Upon returning to his private quarters, Jin is warmly welcomed by his devoted nanny, Gilly, who congratulates him on successfully completing his very first official mission and quickly prepares a warm bath for him. But before Jin can catch his breath, a shadowy black cat sitting in the corner glares at him with glowing eyes. Jin tries to act friendly, calling the cat Butterfly and asking if he was a good boy while he was away. In response, the cat lunges forward and bites down brutally on Jin's hand. Jin throws the biting feline off him, but the beast immediately explodes in rage. Murakan rapidly slaps Jin's face with his paws, screaming at him for foolishly using shadow energy release. Murakan transforms into his imposing human form and hoists Jin high into the air, yelling about how reckless it was to risk his life when he is the sole contractor of the shadow god Solderet. But behind all his dramatic fury, Murakan admits his true complaint. Jin forgot to bring back the strawberry pie he promised. Once the chaos settles, Murakan explains the true danger of what Jin did. Throughout history, 11 people have suffered shadow energy intoxication, and 9 of them died agonizing deaths. The only survivors were Murakan himself, and now Jin. However, surviving the trial gave Jin a massive reward. His shadow energy capacity has skyrocketed from 3-star all the way to the middle of 4-star. Meanwhile, In the grand palace of the Runcandel clan, Jin's older sisters, Anne and Miu Runcandel, the family's 8th and 9th flag bearers, discuss the shocking news. They find it hard to believe that Jin, a brand new 3-star knight, managed to kill a fierce warrior of the White Wolf tribe on his very first mission. Standing nervously in the back of the room are the Tona twins, Haytona and Daytona. The twins whisper anxiously to each other, sweating with fear over the realization that Jin might really be a monster, and dreading the fact that he will soon be joining them in the intermediate training class. Anne notices their muttering and fixes them with a terrifying, bloodthirsty glare. She coldly warns them that she despises liars above all else and threatens to rip off their mouths if they try to deceive her. Shaking with terror, the twins break down and confess that they are utterly terrified of Jin. Smiling wickedly, Anne and Mayu offer them a vicious solution. In the Runcandel clan, the intermediate training class follows the absolute law of the jungle. It is filled with seasoned cadets ranging from 3-star to 5-star strength, some of whom have trained there for over a decade. Over the years, Anne and Mayu have completely subjugated several powerful senior cadets, keeping them chained under their absolute control like personal attack dogs. The sisters promise to lend these brutal lackeys to the Tona twins to crush Jin and put him in his place, warning the brothers that they will pay a severe price if they fail. Back in his chambers after a hot bath, Jin reflects on his rapid growth. With his shadow energy now at 4-star, he realizes his physical swordsmanship must catch up. In order to properly wield this dark power without destroying his body, he must push his swordsmanship to the 6-star level within 5 years. Jin reflects on the martial power structure of the world. Reaching 6-star makes someone a remarkable swordsman, while 7-star earns the title of master. Reaching 8-star turns a warrior into an anomaly, and across the entire continent of 2 billion people, fewer than 100 individuals have ever reached 9 or 10-star mastery. And standing completely above them all is only one living legend, the demigod, the celestial knight, his father, Chiron Runcandel. Clenching his fist with burning resolve, Jin swears to himself that in this second life, simply becoming a celestial knight will not be enough. He intends to surpass even that absolute peak. Looking toward his immediate future, Jin knows the intermediate training class is a ruthless battleground, where even blood siblings turn on each other without hesitation to secure their standing. In a place where soft-hearted people are destroyed and strength is the only law, Jin sets his goal with chilling determination. Using overwhelming brute force and unmatched skill, he will completely dominate the intermediate class. Jin stands before his mother, Rosa Runcandel, inside her grand office. Rosa is pleased with his performance, confirming that his recent mission was executed flawlessly. However, she turns her attention to the report sent by butler Petro and asks why Jin turned down her offer to move into the special quarters. She reminds him that this particular room is reserved solely for the child destined to become the family's next patriarch, a room that has remained empty ever since Joshua used it during his youth. Jin respectfully declines once again, stating that no matter how magnificent the room is, it remains just a room, far too large and extravagant for him right now. Rosa accepts his decision and dismisses him, but as he leaves, her mind races. She wonders whether her youngest son truly lacks all greed, or if his ambition is so vast that it dwarfs ordinary desires. Rosa had intentionally set a trap. Accepting the room would grant him immense backing, but it would instantly paint a massive target on his back for every rival in the family. She realizes that Jin saw right through her test from the very start, and she looks forward to seeing how he will handle what comes next. The following day marks the start of the intermediate training class. Before stepping into the arena, Jin gathers the rookies who advanced alongside him. He warns them that the intermediate class is divided into fierce factions. Because they are aligned with him, they will inevitably face harassment and territorial battles from senior members. Jin assures them not to fear, promising that he will soon crush and suppress the entire intermediate class. Until then, he gives them a strict rule: never act alone and always move in groups of 3. As they enter the courtyard, an overwhelming presence greets them. Standing at the forefront is Jin Runcandel, an 8-star knight, Chiron's younger brother, and the chief instructor. Zed delivers a harsh reality check. Out of the entire division, only 10 new rookies qualified this year, while 27 dropped out. He bluntly states his role. He will only teach swordsmanship and evaluate their performance. Any conflicts or incidents between trainees are entirely up to them to resolve, as long as nobody commits murder. To set the mood, Zed bellows a question to the seniors, asking what principle he always emphasizes. In unison, a deafening roar erupts from the senior ranks. "The weak are not needed in Runcandel!" The thunderous chants are designed to break the rookie's spirits. Scanning the crowd, Jin spots his older brothers, the Tona twins, standing proudly among the seniors. Right beside them is an experienced, rough-looking trainee. Jin immediately deduces that the twins could never win over a senior trainee on their own. They must have received financial or political backing from their older sisters, Miu and Anne, specifically to corner the rookies. Rather than waiting to be targeted, Jin takes immediate action. He draws his sword and strides purposefully toward the crowd. The Tona twins panic, wondering why their younger brother is heading straight for them. Before anyone can react, a brilliant flash of steel cuts through the air. With terrifying speed and precision, Jin cleanly severs the senior trainee's arm. Blood splatters across the courtyard as the senior collapses, screaming in absolute agony. Jin coldly looks down at the bleeding man and calls for a medic. He then looks at the crowd and announces that the ones who need to be hazed are not the rookies, but the seniors themselves. The Tona twins are outraged, shouting at Jin and calling him insane. Ignoring their panic, Jin looks down at the injured swordsman and asks for his name. Through gritted teeth, the man reveals himself as Kajin Romero. Jin asks Kajin if he understands why his arm was just cut off. Furious, one of the Tona twins demands that Jin draw his sword to face them. Jin turns his head, his eyes glowing with chilling bloodlust, warning his brothers to stay quiet while he finishes speaking with Kajin. The intimidated twin accidentally slips up, furiously blurting out how Jin dared to attack his trainee. Hearing that single word, a sly smile crosses Jin's face. By claiming Kajin as his trainee, the Tona twin officially acknowledges Kajin as a member of their faction. In the Runcandel family, this legal technicality changes everything. Jin's sudden assault is no longer a random act of violence, but a legitimate hierarchy battle, a sacred clan tradition. Zed watches from the balcony with a sinister grin, impressed by Jin's cunning maneuver. Jin had turned a potential disciplinary disaster into an official faction challenge. Jin then turns to address the entire courtyard. He declares that any trainee is free to point a sword at him or even ambush him, as he just did. However, he warns them all. Anyone who displays even the slightest hint of hostility toward him will be mercilessly struck down. Hearing this bold declaration, Zed steps forward and calls out Jin's name. A suffocating dark aura erupts from the Elder Knight, bearing down on Jin with crushing weight. Zed asks Jin if he truly has the nerve to perform such an outrage right in front of him. Without breaking eye contact, Jin calmly replies that he does. When Zed demands to know why, Jin delivers a shocking answer. He states that his strike was never aimed at the Tona twins, but was meant as a challenge to Zed himself. Amused and intrigued, Zed ignites a lethal blade of pure aura around his hand, aiming it directly at Jin's throat. The Elder warns Jin that unless his explanation satisfies him, he will behead him on the spot. With a dark, menacing smirk, he stares down Jin and declares that a duel between them would certainly be entertaining. Zed makes it brutally clear. Depending on Jin's explanation for causing such chaos and injuring a cadet, he might just take Jin's head off right where he stands. Standing completely calm, with his blade held firmly at his side, Jin doesn't show a single trace of fear. He explains that Zed had initiated a subtle form of hazing against the cadets, despite knowing a direct pure-blood heir was present in the ranks of Jin. Jin interpreted this as an indirect provocation aimed at him, so he responded in kind.
Zed moves faster than the naked eye can track. In the blink of an eye, a compressed blade of aura slices through the air, grazing Jin's cheek and drawing a thin line of blood. Jin doesn't even blink. Zed asks why Jin didn't draw his sword against him directly if he felt provoked, instead of attacking Kajin and his brothers. Jin replies with unflinching honesty. He admits that he simply cannot defeat Zed yet. Had he believed he stood a chance of winning, his blade would have targeted Zed from the very beginning. Zed warns him that such arrogance is reckless, asking if Jin truly believes his status as the Patriarch's son makes him invincible.
Jin smirks and answers that a true Runcandel does not simply sit around doing nothing just because an opponent is stronger. In the Runcandel family, life can be lost in an instant, but honor lasts forever. Hearing this brazen, fearless logic, Zed bursts into uproarious laughter. He finds Jin's audacity foolish, yet utterly magnificent. Turning toward the stunned crowd of cadets, Zed roars with pride. He tells them to burn this moment into their memories, because what Jin displayed is the true essence of the Runcandel clan. Pure, unapologetic sword fanatics who never back down from a fight. Fired up by the display, Zed commands the cadets to begin their training with everything they have. Once the grueling day of training wraps up, the cadets are dismissed. As the Tona twins, Dayton and Haytona, nurse their bruised pride, Jin walks up behind them. In a calm yet chilling tone, Jin gives his older brothers a piece of advice. He tells them they might fear their older siblings for now, but they should think carefully about who will hold true power in the future. Leaving the twins frozen in thought, Jin turns and heads back to his quarters. Back inside his private residence, Jin is welcomed by his nanny Gilly and his shadow dragon Murakan, who is currently lounging around in the form of a plump black cat. Sitting down over tea, Jin reveals that the hierarchy war with the Tona twins has officially begun. He explains that the twins are likely being backed by their older sisters, the 5th and 6th flag bearers, Miu and Anne. Jin deduced this because the 5-star cadet he injured was far too strong to be serving under the incompetent Tona twins willingly. Through a slip of the tongue during the scuffle, the cadet got roped into their mess, which will undoubtedly infuriate their sisters. Gilly worries that flag bearers might get involved, but Jin reassures her. According to family law, flag bearers are strictly forbidden from directly intervening in cadet affairs or attacking lower-ranked siblings. The only way Miu and Anne can strike back is by using their administrative authority to manipulate Jin's cadet assignments, placing him on high difficulty or dangerous missions to get him killed. However, Jin sees this as a golden opportunity. The most perilous missions are often solo assignments, meaning no one will be watching him. Away from prying eyes, Jin will finally be able to unleash his magic and shadow abilities at full power, without having to hide his true strength. Jin then picks up a bewildered Murakan by the scruff of his neck. While bringing a cat on missions wouldn't arouse suspicion, Jin tells Murakan that he has a much more secretive and important task lined up for him in the shadows. For now, both Gilly and Murakan must stay low while Jin prepares for the next phase.
Later that afternoon, Jin and the Tona twins are brought to a private, restricted courtyard meant strictly for pure-blood heirs. Zed stands before them, warning them that the exclusive privileges granted to purebloods come with brutal expectations. He explains the core philosophy of Runcandel's swordsmanship. Unlike other great martial clans, the Runcandels have no rigid forms, standard stances, or fixed principles. Their swordsmanship relies purely on the overwhelming physical supremacy, destructive power, and boundless talent inherent to their bloodline. Zed then places a massive, heavy metallic sphere in front of each young pureblood, calling it the Clear Rock. Jin examines the sphere and immediately notices the faint sound of loose steel fragments rattling inside.
Zed explains that the Clear Rock produces 3 distinct sounds, depending on how it is struck. Drawing his sword, Zed strikes the sphere with too little force. A muddy, vibrating screech radiates from the rock, assaulting their ears and making the Tona twins wince in agony. Next, Zed strikes the sphere with flawless, controlled power. A crystalline, beautiful chime rings out across the courtyard, filling the air with pure resonance. Jin quickly analyzes the purpose of the exercise. The goal is to produce that perfect chime consistently, which trains precision, strength modulation, and mental focus. Yet Jin realizes this exercise seems far too gentle and safe for a clan as ruthless as the Runcandels. Zed's grin turns sinister as he announces the third and final sound. He raises his sword high overhead, gathering a terrifying amount of destructive aura around his blade. Jin connects the dots in an instant. The loose steel fragments inside the sphere, the excessive aura, and the volatile nature of the rock. His eyes widen in alarm. Without hesitating for a single second, Jin lunges forward, screaming at the Tona twins to get down as he tackles them flat to the ground. Zed's blade slams down onto the clear rock with full force. Instantly, the sphere violently detonates. A massive explosion erupts across the courtyard, blowing the stone table to smithereens and sending fiery shockwaves tearing through the air. As the thick smoke and dust slowly clear, Jin pushes himself up off the ground, having shielded the trembling twins from the deadly blast. Standing in the center of a cracked crater, Zed looks at Jin with deep amusement and approval. Jin's sharp instincts save them all from severe injury. Looking down at the shattered remains, Zed delivers the grim reality of the test. Strike the clear rock too softly, and it will screech. Strike it with perfect control, and it will sing. But strike it too hard, and it will blow you straight to pieces. It turns out this brutal exercise is a rite of passage that almost every Runcandel child has failed. In fact, Jin and the twins are the first ones to walk away without a single scratch, aside from Luna. Curious, Jin asks how his eldest sister, Luna, managed to dodge the blast back when she took the test. Jed's answer catches everyone off guard. Luna did not dodge it at all. Just like the rest of the siblings, she took the full explosion head on. The only difference was that Luna's body was already so ridiculously sturdy and tough that the explosion didn't leave a single scratch on her. With that terrifying comparison out of the way, Jed gets back to business. He orders the 3 boys to continue striking the clear rock until they can cleanly produce a clear, ringing sound under any circumstance without triggering an explosion. When Jed calls for a brief 5-minute break, the Tona twins collapse in exhaustion, but Jin immediately sits down cross-legged with his sword in hand. He takes this moment to analyze the purpose of the training. He initially thought it was about holding back raw strength, but he realizes the real secret is destructive aura control. Jed was able to shatter the rock using sheer physical strength without using aura, but Jin is still a teenager and lacks adult physical power. To compensate, Jin needs to sharpen his aura to an extreme degree. If he can refine his aura enough to hew that clear resonance, he will be able to cut through through the stone cleanly. He takes a deep breath, reminding himself not to rush. Seeing Jin focus intensely while the others are crying in exhaustion, Jed watches in silence. A brilliant glow of pure aura begins wrapping around Jin's blade. Jed is stunned by Jin's natural genius, realizing that this boy might actually surpass Luna's training record. The grueling training stretches deep into the night. Hours later, the Tona twins completely pass out on the floor. While Jed scolds the twins and tells them not to bother showing up tomorrow if they plan on collapsing again, he secretly notes that they lasted longer than most cadets. But when Jed looks over at Jin, who is still standing upright, radiating power and catching his breath, he can't help but explode in frustration. Jed grabs his head in disbelief, lamenting why Jin had to be born as the youngest child. If Jin had been born just 10 years earlier, he easily could have taken control of the entire Runcandel clan. Meanwhile, in another part of the estate, Luna is relaxing in her room, enjoying a warm cup of tea brought by her nanny. The conversation shifts toward the assassination attempt that happened 5 years ago, back when Jin was only 10 years old at the Storm Castle. The nanny mentions that she strongly suspects they're sisters, Mew and Anne, since both have constantly tried to keep Jin down. Luna acknowledges the possibility, though she wonders if Mewy and Anne would really be reckless enough to attempt murder inside the Storm Castle. Infighting in the castle is strictly forbidden, and if their father Chiron ever found out, the perpetrators would be executed without hesitation. Even so, Luna remembers the pure caution and fear in Jin's eyes when he was a child. He genuinely believed his life was in danger. Despite the looming threat from their family, Luna smiles warmly into her tea, feeling genuinely happy watching her little brother grow stronger every day. 1 month passes. It is now March of the year 1795 at the Intermediate Cadets Training Facility. The cadets gather in the Grand Hall to receive their very first official missions. The instructor begins calling out names and reading the assignments. While some groups are given simple guard duties, the third mission is announced as a dangerous demon beast subjugation. The target is a pack of 25 savage orcs located in the lawless regions of the Carano Principality. When the instructor reads the list of cadets assigned to this deadly task, a wave of shock hits the room. The roster consists of Mesa, Bellup, Tainment, and 7 other recruits, all of whom are cadets directly loyal to Jin. The surrounding senior cadets immediately start whispering and laughing. They mock the rookies, joking that they will be beaten half to death and suggesting they write their wills before leaving. One senior cadet even taunts them out loud, sarcastically telling them to run and beg young Master Jin for help. Tainment boils with rage and prepares to lash out at the seniors, but Mesa grabs his arm, stopping him in his tracks. She tells him to hold it in, warning that getting injured before the mission will only make things worse. When Tainment angrily reminds her that they insulted Jin, Mesa steps forward and screams at the top of her lungs. She reminds everyone that this is Runcandel. There is only one way to shut their mockers up. They will head into the battlefield, conquer the impossible mission, and return completely victorious. With fire in her eyes and unwavering resolve, Mesa prepares her squad to face the trials ahead. In the courtyard of the training grounds, the loud crash of metal and stone rings out across the estate. For the past month, the cadets have been undergoing intense training with exploding clear rocks. Daytona swings his blade down hard on one of the spheres, but the sudden explosion sends sharp fragments flying in every direction. Startled, Daytona rushes over to apologize, terrified that he accidentally hurt the youngest cadet. Jin brushes off the apology with calm composure, asking his brother to keep a safer distance next time. As the dust settles,
Jin looks down at his hand and processes the strange sensation he felt just before the impact. For a brief second, he didn't just see the flying shards, he could see their exact trajectories mapped out clearly in the air, just like following the path of an incoming arrow. He realizes this keen sensory perception is the fruit of the brutal training he endured under his eldest sister, Luna. Eager to test this instinct once more, Jin prepares to strike another sphere. But before he can swing his sword, a stern voice roars across the courtyard. Uncle Zed stands before them, holding official mission documents. The afternoon training is cut short because the cadets have been assigned their official field duties.
For the Tona twins, Haytona and Daytona, the news is dreadful. They have been assigned to attend a formal banquet in the Bement Empire. The twins immediately whine about having to wear stuffy banquet clothes and dance among nobles, knowing their older sisters, Mew and Anne, arranged this political chore specifically to punish them. But when the twins let out a frustrated sigh, Zed's expression turns terrifying. With raw bloodlust in his eyes, Zed warns them never to show weakness or complain about a Runcandel mission again, unless they wish to end up dead. The twins instantly freeze in sheer terror and bow their heads in submission. Turning his attention to Jin, Zed hands him a far more dangerous assignment: a VIP assassination. The target is a noble named Alcaro Chendera, who happens to be the latest lover and plaything of Teleris and Dorma, the 51st master of the Ice Palace, notoriously known as the Spider of the Abyss. The Ice Palace is a massive, independent fortress towering over the Western Sea, completely free from the influence of both the Runcandels and the Zippels. Teleris is legendary for her overwhelming strength and her ruthless vengeance against anyone who dares to lay a finger on those she favors. To make matters worse, Alcaro is hiding out in Mamet, a notoriously dangerous, lawless territory where imperial law holds no power. Zed explains that the Chenderer family tried everything to retrieve Alcaro, but after failing, they requested his assassination to prevent their family's secrets from being exposed to the Ice Palace. It is clearly a death trap disguised as a cadet mission. Zed expects Jin to protest or ask for reassignment, fully prepared to step in if the boy complains. But without even a second of hesitation, Jin looks straight into his uncle's eyes and accepts the task. Zed is impressed by Jin's sheer confidence and fearless attitude. With the assignments finalized, he grants the cadets 2 days of rest to prepare. Once Zed steps away, the Tona twins nervously approach Jin. In their own clumsy, awkward way, they try to give him advice, telling him that if he gets into real danger in Mamet, he should just reveal his Runcandel lineage so nobody dares to touch him. Jin smirks, teasing them for suddenly caring about his survival. The twins quickly bluster and shout that they only want him alive so they can crush him themselves later. In response, Jin draws his sword in the blink of an eye and cleanly slices a massive training sphere clean in half, sending a blast of wind right between the twins. With a sharp, chilling smile, Jin leaves them with a final warning. While he is gone, they need to make up their minds about whether they truly want to side with their older sisters or with him. Watching from the sidelines, Zed offers the shaken twins one last piece of brutal advice. If they want to live a long life, they must never go against Jin until they are truly strong enough to match him. 2 days later, the departure day arrives. In order to keep his identity hidden during an undercover assassination, Jin alters his hair color to a sandy brown and equips travel gear. His loyal cadet allies, led by Mesa, gather to see him off. Sensing their heavy expressions and deep worry, Jin steps forward to reassure them. He tells them to stay focused on their own missions and promises that he will definitely return alive, reminding them not to waste energy on needless worry.
Moved by his leadership, the cadets bow their heads with deep respect.
Before heading out, Jin checks in with his personal maid Gilly and his guardian dragon Murakan, who is currently disguised as a black cat. Murakan grumbles and scolds Jin to be careful and not get caught, while Gilly clasps her hands in deep concern over the terrifying danger of entering Mamet and hunting a target tied to the Ice Palace. Jin offers her a warm, confident smile, telling her to treat his absence like a peaceful vacation. Mounting his horse, Jin rides through the grand gates of the Runcandel estate and heads toward the lawless city of Mamet, ready to take on the deadly mission ahead.
Deep within a desolate wasteland lies Mamet, the notorious lawless zone. It is a ruthless sanctuary where the continent's worst criminals, outlaws, and fugitives gather. The dark aura of this chaotic city is so heavy that people say even weeds refuse to grow in its cursed soil. Inside a rowdy, dust-covered tavern, the heavy wooden doors slam open. A hulking brute named Tonk bursts inside, laughing loudly and boasting that he has returned once again after escaping the authorities. The tavern erupts in cheers as rough outlaws slam their mugs together, welcoming him back into their den of debauchery.
Suddenly, the atmosphere cools as another figure steps through the doorway. Dressed in a weathered traveling cloak with his hood pulled low, Jin walks silently toward the counter. Ignoring the rowdy thugs staring at him, he casually flips a coin onto the counter and places his order with absolute calm. Cold water and light snacks. The tavern falls quiet. The bartender sneers at his unusual order, mocking him for acting like some proud, high-ranking knight. Tonk, feeling ignored and eager to show off, marches over and slams a heavy hand onto Jin's shoulder. Towering over the young newcomer, Tonk barks out the harsh rules of Mamet and orders Jin to get down on his knees and lick his boots. Before the brute can even finish his threat, Jin's blade moves in a blinding flash. A sharp slash echoes through the room, and blood violently splatters across the wooden counter. With a single, effortless stroke, Jin cuts Tonk down where he stands. Slipping his dagger back into his coat, Jin calmly looks up at the bartender and asks how much longer he will have to wait for his food. Instead of panicking, the outlaws in the tavern burst into wild laughter. In a place like Mamet, life is cheap and strength commands instant respect. Jin knows this well. His master in his past life had warned him that to earn a passing grade from these lawless cutthroats, one must demonstrate both cold courage and lethal skill. Remembering his magic master from his previous life, Jin silently hopes that in this new timeline, he can finally repay the great debt of gratitude he owes her. The bartender serves Jin a plate of food and a glass of clean water, assuring him that nothing is poisoned, as poisoning inside this zone is strictly forbidden. Recognizing Jin is no ordinary traveler, the bartender asks if he is looking for illegal substances or searching for a specific person. Jin replies that he is looking for someone, asking if anyone around here goes by the name of Heister. The bartender shakes his head firmly. He is certain no one by that name resides in Mamet. Hearing this, Jin realizes he will have to search elsewhere for his former teacher. Before leaving, Jin asks the bartender for a good place to stay. Specifically, a place where annoying pests won't disturb him. The bartender points him toward an elite establishment in the western part of the city called the Moonlight Well. It is a high-class inn known for pleasure and entertainment, where only the strongest and most influential figures in Mamet dare to stay. Night falls over the city as Jin approaches the Moonlight Well. As he walks, he focuses on his current assassination target, Alcaro Zanderer. Alcaro is the foolish young master of a prominent noble family. Pampered and cowardly, he is obsessed with drugs and hedonism, a classic bully who grovels before the strong while tormenting the weak. Alcaro has been lingering in Mamet,
desperately trying to win the favor of the master of the hidden ice palace. Knowing Alcaro's habits, Jin deduces that the young noble is likely hiding inside this very inn, indulging in drugs under heavy guard. Jin slips quietly into the inn's lobby to scout the area, and luck is on his side. Almost immediately, he spots Alcaro throwing a furious tantrum at his bodyguards.
Alcaro is screaming at the stoic warriors, desperately demanding more drugs so he can satisfy his desires. But the guards, dressed in the distinctive robes of the hidden ice palace, stand firm. They coldly inform him that their sole duty is to keep him breathing, not to pamper his pathetic addictions. Enraged, Alcaro threatens them, claiming he will have all their heads chopped off once his darling returns. Pushed to their limit by his insolence, one of the Ice Palace guards unleashes a brief blast of frosty energy, knocking the screaming noble unconscious on the spot. As the guards haul the limp noble upstairs, they openly complain about how much they despise protecting such a worthless scumbag.
Watching from the shadows, Jin assesses the situation. He notes that the Ice Palace escort guards are at least 6-star warriors. Slaying the defenseless Alcaro himself will be easy, but escaping alive after killing him while surrounded by 6-star experts is a completely different story. Since using poison would break the city's unspoken taboo and trigger chaos, Jin knows he must formulate a flawless, secret plan to eliminate Alcaro inside his room and vanish without a trace. A confident smirk crosses Jin's face as he settles on his strategy.
Jin slams his hand down onto the table, his mind completely made up. To eliminate his target without leaving any trace back to himself, he decides to unleash an all-out magical assault directly from inside his room. He calculates that by combining his 4-star shadow energy with his magic, the raw destructive force will easily reach the tier of a 6-star magician. In the eyes of the world, no one would ever suspect that a 15-year-old boy could wield 6-star magic. After all, even the renowned prodigy of the Zippel clan, Baradin Zipfel, had only just reached that level.
On top of that, shadow energy leaves behind no residual mana traces, completely erasing any proof that Jin was the caster. If he calls down lightning from the sky, everyone will naturally believe the attack came from a powerful outside assailant. Taking a steady breath, Jin activates his shadow energy. Dark, wispy shadows rise from beneath his boots, swirling around him before bursting outward into a thick, pitch-black aura. A faint smirk crosses his face as he prepares the spell, knowing how reckless and wild this plan truly is. He raises his hand, crackling sparks of blue electricity lighting up the darkness, and calls upon the skies to summon lightning. Meanwhile, in the streets of Mammoth, a group of elite Ice Palace warriors escort a stunning young woman with flowing silver-white hair and a decorated folding fan. This is Ceres Endorma, the daughter of Talaris, master of the Ice Palace, and the commander of the Ice Palace's 7 swords. She is a high-ranking authority from the hidden Ice Palace, and she has personally traveled to Mammoth to dispose of the troublesome Alcaro once and for all. As she walks briskly toward the Moonlight Well to finally rid herself of the annoying noble, the sky suddenly tears open. Without warning, a colossal pillar of brilliant blue lightning crashes down from the heavens, blasting directly into the Moonlight Well with explosive force. The terrifying shockwave sweeps across the entire street, tossing dust and debris in every direction. The shocked guards quickly move to shield their lady, crying out that the lightning strike just leveled the Moonlight Well. Amidst the swirling dust and crackling electricity, the white-haired woman slowly snaps her fan open. Looking toward the ruined inn with a fierce, excited grin, she remarks that whoever dared to pull off such crazy destruction chose the absolute wrong day to do it. Another blinding thunderbolt crashes down right behind the first. Inside the collapsing inn, smoke, dust, and fire fill the air. The local thugs panic in total chaos, shouting and screaming as they wonder if the Zippel clan has sent magicians to take revenge. Before they can make sense of the destruction, Ceres and her masked guard, Hayton, rush straight into the crumbling structure. Hayton warns that an enemy might be targeting their Ice Palace forces. Ceres knows they have 6 allies inside, along with Alcaro, her mother's lover, whom she holds no love for. She immediately orders her men that whatever happens to Alcaro, keeping the lives of their Ice Palace members safe is the top priority. Another lightning strike detonates through the rubble, tearing through the remaining pillars. As the dust finally begins to settle, Ceres observes the wreckage and realizes the barrage is finally over. She quickly moves in to check on her men. Beneath the heavy slabs of debris, Jin pushes a boulder off himself, coughing in the thick smoke. Pouring every remaining bit of his shadow energy into that final strike had pushed the attack's power close to a 7-star spell. Fortunately, the protective pendant around his neck shielded him from fatal harm. Looking around, Jin notices that the Ice Palace warriors survived the blast, but there is no sign of Alcaro. Jin realizes that Ceres originally came here to deal with Alcaro anyway. If the man is dead, Jin doesn't even need to finish the job himself. However, a new problem arises. He cannot let the daughter of the Ice Palace Master remember his face as someone suspicious. He decides to cover his face with dirt, act like a helpless victim caught in the crossfire, and slip away quietly. Just then, an Ice Palace guard reports to Ceres that Alcaro was crushed and killed by the magic attack, apologizing for failing to protect him. Hearing this, Ceres smiles with genuine relief. She admits she came here to save them the trouble of dealing with that idiot in the first place. Taking control of the situation, Ceres steps forward, draws her sword, and drives the blade into the ground before the surviving thugs of Mamet. Radiating a chilling, frosty aura, she loudly announces her identity as Ceres Endorma, daughter of Teleris. She declares that from this moment on, the inn is under the Ice Palace's control, and anyone who dares to oppose her will be treated as an enemy of the Ice Palace. An arrogant local thug tries to push back, arguing that Mamit belongs to its own local rulers and that the Ice Palace has no right to exert authority here. Without even blinking, Ceres unleashes a sharp arc of freezing sword energy, slicing the air and asserting her dominance. Her eyes glow with cold intensity as she asks them if playing king in this filthy city made them forget who the Ice Palace is. She warns them that if this attack was aimed at the locals and the Ice Palace was caught in the middle, they have every right to take command. Terrified by her overwhelming power, the thugs immediately back down, agreeing to help search for the culprit among the survivors. As Ceres turns back toward the wreckage, she spots a young boy huddled against the broken stone, Jin. Surprised to find someone her own age in a dangerous place like Mamet, she approaches him and asks if he is all right, urging him to get outside to safety. Jin, fully committed to his act, pulls his head down, blushes with fear, and stammers like a frightened child. He claims that he is too scared to move and that he injured his leg during the blast. Seeing this swordsman acting so timid and cute makes Ceres burst into laughter. Amused by his harmless reaction, she pulls out a small jar of healing ointment, kneels beside him, and gently rubs it onto Jin's leg. She playfully tells him that he is lucky to have survived, and that receiving ointment directly from her is a massive honor. Jin pretends to be shy and embarrassed, asking how a nobody like him could ever repay such kindness. Ceres casually waves off his concern, telling him to just think of it as a fond memory and to greet the Ice Palace whenever he remembers this day. Giving him a warm, cheerful wave goodbye, Ceres turns and walks away with her guards. Jin sits in the dust, waving back with an innocent, foolish smile on his face. But the very second she turns the corner and disappears from sight, The timid expression vanishes instantly. Jin's eyes turn cold and sharp as he stares into the clearing smoke, knowing his plan went off without a single flaw. Mission complete. Deep inside the monster-infested forest, the cadet squad assigned under Jin's division brings their blades down on another ferocious beast, successfully slaying their 18th orc. Breathing heavily but grinning with relief, the trainees celebrate their victory. Cadet Tainment and Scut bump fists, thrilled by the idea that they might actually complete this dangerous mission without losing a single person and prove wrong everyone who had mocked their group. Mesa quickly steps in to rein in their excitement, reminding them to stay focused since 7 targets still remain. One of the cadets points out how strange it is that the orcs, creatures that usually hunt in deadly packs, are wandering the woods entirely on their own. Convinced that Jin is blessed by the gods, the cadets believe their young master's good fortune is rubbing off on all of them. Mesa looks on with quiet pride as she orders everyone to stay sharp and continue the search. However, hiding in the nearby bushes, a little black cat watches them with an exhausted sigh. It turns out this easy hunt was entirely the doing of Murakan. A few days prior, right when the mission had been assigned, Murakan had taken his intimidating humanoid shadow form and gathered the entire horde of orcs in the forest. Radiating overwhelming killing intent, he had threatened the terrified monsters, warning them that if they traveled in groups of 2 or more, he would wipe them out on the spot. Terrified for their lives, the orcs had scattered in all directions, making them easy prey for Jin's squad. Back in the present, Murakan grumbles in his cat form about how much work Jin makes him do just to earn new Manhwa books. But just as he wishes for the cadets to hurry up so he can go home and rest, a sudden and massive shockwave ripples through the forest. Murakan's playful demeanor vanishes instantly. His eyes glow as he senses an ominous, colossal presence heading directly toward the campsite. Stepping through the mist is a towering, armored figure. Realizing that the low-ranking cadets wouldn't stand a chance against such an anomaly, Murakan discreetly casts a massive dome of shadow magic over the entire area. The sky darkens above the cadets, making them believe it is merely about to rain, completely unaware of the barrier shielding them from the outside world.
Outside the barrier, Murakan steps up to confront the intruder. Looking closely at the massive armored entity with a glowing red eye, Murakan recognizes it immediately. It is a graveyard giant, an ancient relic created to guard the tombs of deceased gods. 2,000 years ago, the Dragon Clan had wiped them out, so finding one active in this modern era is deeply unsettling. Unwilling to let an ancient relic run rampant near his contractor's allies, Murakan unleashes his true form. Swirling shadow mana engulfs the area as he transforms into a majestic black shadow dragon, crowned with blazing blue flames. Gathering immense dark energy into his maw, Murakan unleashes a catastrophic dragon breath. The blast rips through the terrain and completely incinerates the graveyard giant in a single earth-shattering roar, leaving behind nothing but crushed debris and smoking earth. Reverting back to his human form, Murakan stretches his aching muscles, noting that his body is still recovering from centuries of slumber. Looking down at the shattered remains of the giant, he realizes this encounter was no accident. Suspecting that this incident is somehow tied to the sinister schemes of the Zippel clan, Murakan decides to keep this battle a secret from Jin for now. He resolves to protect Jin from the shadows, confident that if Jin continues to grow at this incredible pace, he will stand at the absolute peak in 10 years and have the power to challenge the entire Zippel clan. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit hideout far from the forest, a frantic man with glasses rushes through a set of heavy doors. This is transformation sorcerer Booberé Gaston, and he hysterically reports that his beloved art, the Graveyard Giant, has been completely destroyed.
Standing calmly before him is Bishkal Ibriano, the leader of the Kinzello Revolutionary Group. Bishkal reveals that he has already investigated the site personally. He informs the shocked Bubare that the creature responsible for destroying the giant was not a human, but a mythical shadow dragon. Believing that the dragons may be catching on to their hidden operations, Bishkal decides to send reinforcements to secure the area and prepares to arrange a secret meeting with the Zippel clan. Back at the Runcandel training grounds, the loud and hearty laughter of instructor Jin Runcandel echoes across the courtyard. He looks down proudly at Jin, congratulating him for completing his dangerous mission in the city of Mamet and returning completely unharmed. Zed cannot hold back his amusement, declaring that the flag bearers who assigned this ruthless task just took a massive blow to their pride, and they will definitely be furious when they hear about Jin's success. Jin calmly thanks his uncle with utmost respect before Zed raises his voice, officially dismissing all the cadet units for the day. As the cadets begin to disperse, Jin turns to his squad members, who are overwhelmed with relief to see their young master safe. Jin praises them for their hard work. But just a short distance away, bitter whispers begin to spread among the intermediate cadets. A few envious trainees gather around, discussing the shocking rumors from Mamit. They scoff that Jin only survived because of dumb luck, claiming a rogue magician just happened to attack the target's inn on the exact same day. To them, the world feels completely unfair. They complain that Jin is not only blessed with pure Runcandel blood, but he also possesses godlike fortune, while normal cadets struggle endlessly just to stay in the intermediate class. One of the cadets turns to Kajin Romero, the intermediate cadet whose arm was previously severed and reattached after crossing paths with Jin. The cadet urges Kajin to take action, asking if they are really going to let Jin walk over them like this. Kajin scowls, reminding them that even if Jin acts arrogant, he is still a pure-blooded Runcandel. Without direct orders from young Lady Anne, there is nothing ordinary cadets can openly do. Suddenly, steady footsteps echo across the stone floor. The complaining cadets freeze in horror as Jin casually walks right up to them. They cannot believe he managed to overhear their hushed conversation from such a distance, but Jin coldly confirms that he heard every single word. Jin locks eyes with Kaijin and politely asks how his reattached arm is doing. Kaijin replies with tight-lipped sarcasm, claiming the medical team had an easy time fixing it, thanks to how cleanly Jin cut it off. Kaijin tries to play off the gossip, saying that people of his low status have no choice but to talk behind the young master's back, asking Jin to simply overlook it. However, Jin clarifies that he does not view Kaijin as an eyesore because of petty taunts or insolence. Instead, Jin points out that as a 5-star knight, Kaijin is remarkably skilled and might even be physically stronger than Jin himself. Jin asks why someone with that much talent cowers in the background, whispering behind people's backs, when he was explicitly given permission to challenge Jin to an official duel at any time. Provoked by Jin's challenge, Kajin's eyes narrow and he draws his sword. He asks if Jin is truly suggesting they fight without holding back their aura. Jin draws his own training blade, coated in a sharp, glowing blue energy, confirming they should fight at full strength. Confident that his 5-star aura will crush Jin, Kajin smirks and warns him that he will deeply regret this decision. Kajin charges forward with explosive speed, unleashing heavy, brutal slashes that slam against Jin's blade with blinding sparks. But as their weapons collide, Jin remains completely unbothered. He notes that while Kajin's attacks are heavy, they are nothing compared to the monstrous opponents he is destined to face in the future. Recalling his harsh training against Haytona's steel orbs, Jin's perception sharpens. Time seems to slow down as he begins to see the exact trajectory of Kajin's sword. An infinite number of paths open up in the air, but a 5-star knight blinded by rage can only take a few predictable angles. Kajin roars, swinging with all his might and shouting that Jin is still too unskilled to face a genuine 5-star warrior. But Jin easily parries the furious strikes and calmly announces that he will end the entire fight in just 3 moves. He has already read every single attack Kajin can possibly make. Kajin screams that Jin is talking nonsense, but Jin calmly recites Kajin's sequence step by step. First, a slash from the left. Second, an unconventional uppercut. And finally, the finishing blow. Just as Kajin commits everything to his final strike, Jin unleashes a terrifying, radiant burst of blue aura. The overwhelming pressure shatters Kajin's offense instantly. A devastating shockwave rips through the courtyard, blasting Kajin backward through the air and sending his sword flying before he crashes hard against the shattered stone floor. Kajin gasps for breath in sheer disbelief. The sheer weight of that single attack completely surpassed anything a 4-star warrior could ever produce. Before he can even recover, Jin stands over him, pointing the glowing tip of his sword directly at Kajin's neck. Jin coldly remarks that after this clash, he now knows exactly how many years he needs to reach 5 stars. Shaken to his core, Kajin grunts and asks if Jin had been hiding his true strength all along. Jin calmly replies that he never hid anything. Kajin simply failed to understand who he was dealing with. Jin lowers his blade and declares that he never enters a fight he thinks he might lose. He turns his back and walks away, leaving the surrounding cadets frozen in absolute shock as they struggle to process that the youngest master just overwhelmed a 5-star knight so effortlessly.
Shortly after, Kajin kneels inside the luxurious chambers of Jin's elder siblings, reporting his crushing defeat. The older Runcandel siblings are furious, refusing to believe that a 15-year-old boy could achieve 5-star power in such a ridiculously short amount of time. They accuse Kajin of going easy on Jin, but Kajin insists with complete shame that everyone at the training grounds witnessed it. Jin's aura unquestionably exceeded the 5-star realm. Disgusted by Kajin's failure, the elder brother tells him to get lost. As the door closes, the siblings realize the terrifying reality of the situation. Jin is no longer just defending himself, he is openly baring his fangs at the entire family hierarchy. With cold, murderous intent gleaming in their eyes, they decide that on Jin's very next mission, they will plant their own elite operatives to ensure the youngest master returns home as nothing more than a corpse. Inside the quiet halls of the Garden of Swords, a massive storm was brewing. Gilly gently walked into the room carrying a tray of fresh strawberry pie, unable to hide her excitement. She informed Jin that the entire mansion was bustling with gossip, and everyone in the clan was utterly amazed by what he had just pulled off. In the entire history of the Runcandel clan, only 3 people had ever managed to become a 5-star knight at the tender age of 15. The legendary first patriarch Timar, his father Chiron Runcandel, and his eldest sister Luna. Now Jin had officially become the 4th. Jin calmly sat by the window, taking stock of his actual power. To the outside world, he was a 5-star knight. But in reality, his foundation went far deeper. He was a 5-star in swordsmanship, a 4-star in magic, and a 4-star in shadow energy. Even Jin hadn't anticipated reaching 5-star swordsmanship so quickly just by doing his standard training. He realized that holding 3 distinct types of energy, aura, mana, and shadow energy, created an incredible synergy. Whenever one power grew, it paved new pathways and dragged the other 2 forward with it. Because no one else in history possessed all 3 at once, he was exploring uncharted territory all on his own. Glancing toward the windowsill, Jin noticed a small pot of green roses.
When he asked Gilly if she had placed them there, she replied that they had simply appeared while he was away and offered to throw them out. Sensing no malicious spells or curses on the flowers, Jin told her to leave them be. His thoughts quickly shifted to the political chessboard of the clan. By revealing that he was a 5-star knight at 15, his elder brothers were bound to feel threatened. Chief among them was the second flag bearer, Joshua Runcandel. Ever since Luna renounced her claim to the throne, Joshua had been positioned as the prime candidate to become the next patriarch, backed completely by their mother, Rosa Runcandel. While keeping his true strength hidden had its perks, Jin knew that making this milestone public yielded far greater rewards. The news of a 15-year-old 5-star prodigy would spread like wildfire across the entire continent, published in newsletters from every nation. Sitting nearby on the table, Murakan swallowed a slice of strawberry pie and smugly remarked that Jin was straight up complimenting himself. But Jin explained the cold logic behind his move. With the entire world watching, his siblings would be forced to stay docile to avoid looking petty or terrified. More importantly, it meant that their father, Chiron, would personally return to the Garden of Swords. Jin knew his father's character better than anyone. Chiron was never truly satisfied with any of his children except Luna. And because Luna had zero interest in leading the family, Joshua had merely taken the position by default. Chiron did not discriminate based on age. He cared only about sheer strength and potential. The moment he arrived, he would give Jin a massive trial, along with absolute protection, so the elder siblings couldn't assassinate him before he could prove himself. Jin warned Gilly to keep a tight leash on Murakan during the upcoming family banquet, reminding the great shadow dragon that transforming into a human and sneaking in would ruin everything. Murakan could only pout and shed a dramatic tear over his interrupted dessert. A few days later, the mansion was flooded with official congratulatory letters from powerful factions across the continent, including the royal family of the Vermont Empire. Soon after, the Patriarch sent word that he would return home in exactly 1 month, and a grand banquet would be scheduled to host visiting dignitaries. The elder siblings remained unusually quiet, knowing that moving against Jin under the public eye would only tarnish their reputation. But just as the atmosphere seemed calm, a panicked butler violently kicked open the door. Breathing heavily, he announced that a clan mission had just been officially assigned to Jin, and his destination was the treacherous Colin ruins. At that very moment, the main audience hall was shaking under pure wrath. Rosa Runcandel was seated upon her high throne, dark energy radiating from her body as she furiously threw paperwork to the floor. She unleashed her anger on the flag bearers standing before her, demanding to know how they could dare send the clan's youngest prodigy straight into the heart of Zippel territory. The older siblings, including Runtia, Ran, Vigo, Mew, and Anne, stood frozen beneath her overwhelming pressure. When Jin entered the room, Rosa immediately suppressed her rage and addressed him. She declared flatly that the absurd mission to the Kalon ruins was officially canceled, and that there was no way he would be going. Frustrated by the blatant interference, Mew and Anne snapped, questioning why their mother was suddenly protecting the youngest. Anne argued that both mother and father had always silently encouraged fierce competition and bloodshed among the siblings, and that every flag bearer in the room had survived brutal, life-threatening missions since childhood. Rosa listened quietly, a chilling smile slowly creeping onto her face. She agreed that competition was the lifeblood of the clan, but then she delivered a harsh reality check. She asked them if any single one of them had ever reached 5 stars at the age of 15. The siblings fell dead silent. Rosa made it brutally clear Jin was fundamentally different from them. If they had shown that level of genius at his age, she would have protected them just the same. In plain words, they simply were not worth her protection. To punish the higher flag bearers for allowing such a reckless assignment to pass through, Rosa placed the third flag bearer, Runtia, under self-discipline, while demanding that Ron and Vigo each surrender one of their treasured family swords. With the room suffocated by tension, Rosa turned her gaze directly toward Jin. She challenged him to show how he would handle the situation. Would he act humble and let his siblings be punished? Or would he become conceited and hide behind his mother's favor? Stepping forward with absolute composure, Jin looked directly into his mother's eyes and delivered an answer that shocked everyone in the room. He stated that he actually really liked the mission his sisters had assigned him. Even though he fully understood that the Kalan ruins was enemy territory that the Runcandel clan had previously failed to conquer, Jin smiled with fierce confidence, declaring that he had no intention of running away from a fight. Standing tall in the grand hall before the acting clan leader, Rosa Runcandel, and his gathered siblings, Jin does not show the slightest hint of fear. Instead of complaining about the deadly mission he has been handed, he boldly announces that the assignment is perfect. He declares that while the destination is notoriously dangerous, assigning it to him only proves that the family recognizes his extraordinary ability. His scheming older sisters, Mew and Anne, are left speechless by his confidence. When Rosa questions if he is acting out of pure recklessness or simply testing her, Jin remains completely unbared. He points out the political reality. Revoking the mission now would make the clan look chaotic and indecisive to outsiders. Furthermore, while he knows he cannot defeat his older sisters in a direct confrontation just yet, succeeding in this perilous trial will deal a humiliating blow to their authority.
Rosa warns him that a single miscalculation in the Kalan ruins means certain death, and asks if he truly has the confidence to pull it off. Jin firmly agrees, but he attaches a daring condition. If he returns alive and victorious, he demands the ceremonial swords that his older brothers previously surrendered to the clan. The hall erupts in murmurs of disbelief. One of his older brothers steps forward, trying to convince Jin to back down by offering one of his personal weapons instead, urging him to at least stay alive until their father returns. Jin instantly cuts through the fake sympathy, retorting that if they truly cared about his survival, they would have stopped the sisters from plotting his demise in the first place.
Rosa silences the room with a single word. She accepts Jin's terms, granting him the right to claim the swords upon success, and dismisses everyone. Watching Jin walk away, Rosa allows a faint smile to surface. She had worried Jin might turn out soft-hearted like their eldest sister Luna, but seeing his ruthless ambition, she is confident that Chiron will be pleased with how dangerously fast the youngest son is growing. Outside the chambers, his sisters confront Jin in the hallway, mockingly asking if he expects luck to save him once again. Jin calmly replies that he has never been a lucky person. His sister sneers, reminding him that this will not be a solo mission. She has personally arranged for 3 escorts from their allied faction to accompany him.
Soon after, Jin meets the 3 assigned escorts from the Haas family, Mile, Lima, and their partner. The 3 men bow with exaggerated humility, apologizing for their past disrespect and loudly swearing to protect Jin with their very lives. On the surface, Jin responds with a polite and forgiving smile, but inside, his instincts are razor sharp. He knows full well that these men belong to Mew and Anne's faction, and their sudden loyalty is nothing more than a disguise to stab him in the back at the most convenient moment. Setting out toward their objective, Jin begins the mission briefing. Their official task is a retrieval mission into the Kalan ruins to recover 4 stolen magic firearms. However, Jin knows the dark truth of this territory from his past life. Centuries ago, the powerful Zippel clan invaded the Kalan region, ruthlessly slaughtering and enslaving the native inhabitants. Although the Zippel publicly claim to protect and respect the natives, they secretly treat them as disposable slaves to maintain the land.
Jin remembers an investigative report published years later by a brave journalist exposing the real reason the Zippel were obsessed with these ruins, a sacred mirror-shaped artifact known as the Fountain of Mana. This legendary relic had the terrifying ability to instantly elevate anyone who looked upon it to a 7-star magician. In his previous life, the Zippel used this artifact to mass-produce an army of elite mages. But at this point in time, the Zippel have not yet uncovered the mirror. Jin makes a silent vow that he will never let the Zippel get their hands on it. Under the cover of night, the squad arrives at the edge of the Zippel-controlled outpost in the Kolon ruins. The Haas scouts point out the storage building housing the target artifacts, noting that while an assault is possible, the area is blanketed by advanced detection magic. Once again, the warriors dramatically promise to sacrifice their lives to keep Jin safe. Jin nods along and calmly suggests they rest for an hour before launching their surprise attack. Reaching into his pouch, he hands each of the 3 men a piece of dried meat to keep up their stamina. Without a second thought, the escorts eagerly chew and swallow the ration. As the 3 finish eating, Jin slowly pulls up a black cloth mask over his face and coldly tells them that he will be going ahead alone, so they should sleep well. Shock and panic seize the 3 men as their bodies go limp and their vision begins to blur. Collapsing to their knees, they desperately gasp, wondering if they have been poisoned. Jin casually reassures them that it is only a potent sleeping pill. He looks down at their paralyzed bodies, remarking that if they had acted like their usual arrogant selves, instead of putting on a fake show of loyalty, he might have been less suspicious. Leaving the immobilized traders helpless on the forest floor, Jin turns his back on them and strides into the shadows alone, ready to take on the Zippel compound by himself. Cloaked in shadows under the moonlit sky, Jin makes his way silently toward the Kolon ruins. Disguised in a dark cloak and mask, his target is the Zippel family's 3rd warehouse. He knows that in the eyes of the great clans, ordinary guards are just obedient dogs following orders, making them easy to predict. Arriving outside the warehouse entrance, Jin spots 2 guards stationed by the heavy iron doors. The men are completely relaxed, yawning and chatting casually about fetching wine. Before either guard can even realize they are under attack, Jin closes the distance like a phantom. With blinding speed and pinpoint precision, he strikes the first guard, knocking him out cold in a fraction of a second. The second guard barely has time to panic and raise his weapon before Jin glides behind him, delivering a clean, crushing blow to his neck. Both guards collapse to the ground, neutralized without making a single sound. Looking around, Jin confirms that there are no other guards in the immediate vicinity. He turns his attention to the warehouse door, which is secured by only a simple metal padlock without any alert spells attached. It makes sense to Jin. The Zippel family often lets ordinary people tour this particular warehouse, so they clearly don't view it as anything of high value. Jin unlocks the padlock and pushes the heavy door open. But as soon as he steps across the threshold, his eyes lock onto a glowing magic circle engraved on the stone floor. It is a magic circle of blood and detection. While most people believe this magic is used to identify pure bloods and noble lineages, Jin knows the truth from his vast knowledge. It actually detects the difference between humans, demonic beasts, and those afflicted by strange epidemics. Because the spell only requires ordinary human blood to grant access, Jin decides not to spill his own blood and leave behind evidence. Instead, he draws a dagger, takes a small amount of blood from one of the unconscious guards, and scatters it over the glowing runes. At first, the circle begins to react normally. Jin prepares to search for the hidden artifact, but suddenly, the runes flare into a violent, roaring crimson light. The alarm magic activates immediately. Jin freezes in shock. He used the blood of the guard, a seemingly normal man. Yet the detection circle treated it as an anomaly. That could only mean one horrifying thing. The guard was either deeply infected by a disease, or he was not human at all. Before Jin can process the thought, dark mana surges behind him. The two unconscious guards begin to swell and mutate, transforming into towering, grotesque giants with stone-like gray skin, monstrous claws, and glowing red eyes. Realizing the danger, Jin immediately casts Wind of Silence to create a soundproof barrier, containing the noise and muffling the shockwaves so nearby Zipple magicians won't detect the disturbance. The mutated beasts roar and lunge forward with savage bloodlust. Jin swiftly dodges the beast's razor-sharp claws and retaliates, stabbing his dagger deep into the monster's midsection. However, the strike barely slows it down. Jin leaps back, drawing his sword and coating the steel in brilliant blue aura. The glowing energy makes the monsters flinch for a second, proving they still retain basic survival instincts. As Jin watches, the wound he inflicted with his dagger rapidly knits together and completely regenerates. This level of healing speed is only found in high-ranking demonic beasts, yet these creatures were human only moments ago.
Looking at the ruins, the oppressed native population, and these mutated guards, all the pieces fall into place in Jin's mind. The Zipple family has been using the Kalon ruins as a secret laboratory for forbidden magic, turning living humans into forbidden living golems. Jin knows that fighting living golems requires destroying their core, which is typically located in either the head, the heart, or the abdomen. Moving with lethal speed, Jin slashes directly through the first golem's head. But the monster doesn't fall. Instead, it becomes even more enraged and aggressive, proving its core is hidden deeper within. Jin evades its wild counterattack, readjusts his stance, and drives his aura-infused blade straight into the monster's lower torso. His blade strikes something solid, a glowing blue orb embedded inside its flesh. Jin channels his energy and shatters the core, causing the beast to lose all its power and collapse. Without skipping a beat, Jin turns toward the second charging golem. In one fluid, decisive motion, he drives his sword into its core as well. The blue light bursts apart, and the second monster crumbles into lifeless stone. Jin exhales, relieved that he neutralized both threats before they could break through the barrier and alert the entire territory. But as the dust settles, a faint, trembling voice echoes from the floor. One of the mutated guards, barely clinging to his fading consciousness, sheds a single tear and feebly pleads for mercy, begging Jin to kill him and end the unbearable agony. Jin looks down at the tragic victim with quiet sorrow and respect. With a calm, resolute voice, Jin answers his plea. He raises his sword and delivers a swift, clean mercy strike, freeing the man from his nightmare. Standing amidst the aftermath, Jin's gaze burns with cold anger. No human would ever choose to become a living golem of their own free will. Once transformed, they are stripped of their humanity, reduced to disposable tools with no future. Filled with newfound resolve, Jin prepares to venture deeper, determined to uncover and dismantle the dark secrets hidden within the Zipple family's domain. Standing inside the dark basement of the Kalon ruins, Jin clenches his fist tightly and tells himself that now is not the time to lose his temper. Looking down at the gruesome remains before him, he realizes the terrifying truth behind the Zipple family's secret experiments. They have been turning living humans into monstrous golems. Jin suspects that his older sisters, Mew and Anne, already knew about this horrific danger before sending him on what was supposed to be an impossible mission.
Even if Jin were to expose this truth to the world right now, the mighty Zipple clan possesses enough power and political influence to silence any imperial investigation. Still, creating living golems is an unforgivable taboo. Jin picks up the glowing blue core left behind by the defeated sentry, storing it safely as undeniable evidence.
Surveying the room, Jin notices that the ordinary mages stationed outside have no idea what is truly hidden down here. If everyone knew living golems were guarding the underground, security would have been far tighter. This means only a select few within the Zipple family are involved in this forbidden magic. Looking at the protected stone slates and plates in the vault, Jin knows that carefully diffusing their security spells would normally take a massive amount of time and effort. But since 2 living golem guards are already dead, the Zipples will be forced to cover up this entire incident anyway to hide their own crimes. Taking advantage of this, Jin decides not to waste any time with delicate spell breaking. Instead, he channels his mana, gathering raw magical energy and blazing fire into his palms. With a confident smirk, he unleashes a massive spell called Exploding Flame, detonating the barriers in a brilliant burst of fire and claiming the relics inside. Meanwhile, back at the Runcandel estate, fury erupts inside the main residence. Luna Runcandel, the eldest daughter and strongest sibling, violently slaps both Mew and Anne across the face, sending them crashing to the floor. Towering over them with a cold glare, Luna calls them out for sending their youngest brother straight into dangerous Zipple territory. She reminds them that Jin is 10 years younger than they are. Mew tries to defend their actions, asking why Luna is suddenly interfering in their sibling hierarchy battles when she usually stays neutral. Luna coldly points out that there is an unspoken rule in the Runcandel family. Flag bearers fight flag bearers, and non-flag bearers fight each other. For 2 established flag bearers to gang up on a young intermediate cadet is utterly pathetic. Luna then drops shocking news that leaves both sisters speechless. If Mew and Anne had actually succeeded in crushing Jin, Luna would have stayed quiet. But instead, Jin successfully completed the Kallen Ruins quest on his own and is already reporting his victory to their mother. Luna tells them to be deeply ashamed, pointing out that their failed sabotage only gave Jin the exact wings he needed to rise even higher. Before dismissing them, Luna leaves them with a chilling warning. She explains that from what she has seen, Jin is not the kind of person who forgives easily. Within a few years, he will become strong enough to seek retribution, and neither Mew nor Anne will stand a chance against him. Once the sisters leave in terror, Luna sits down to have tea with her loyal maid. The maid jokingly remarks that seeing Luna hit her siblings made it feel like puberty had finally struck her. However, the maid agrees with Luna's assessment of Jin, stating that Mew and Anne likely only have about 5 years left to live once Jin fully matures. Luna changes the subject and asks if there is any progress on finding out which sibling sent an assassin after Jin during his childhood. The maid explains that Mary, Yona, and the Tona twins are cleared of suspicion because they were too young at the time. That leaves only Joshua, Dyphus, Runtia, Ran, and Vigo as the prime suspects. Because the older candidates are master manipulators who hide their tracks exceptionally well, Luna decides not to act rashly and chooses to keep a close watch on them for now. Back in his private quarters, Jin finally returns home. His nanny, Gilly, rushes over with tears in her eyes, overcome with relief that her young master returned unharmed. She passionately admits that if anything had happened to him, she would have dedicated the rest of her life to getting revenge. Murakan, lounging in his black cat form, jokes about how terrifying Gilly can be, before asking Jin how his report went. Jin explains that while people might gossip and claim he received outside help, he achieved his goal. He then presents a glass jar containing the glowing blue crystal he retrieved from the ruins. Murakan's playful mood instantly vanishes upon seeing the heart of a living golem. shocked that the Zippels are now dabbling in living golems after previously creating graveyard giants, Murakan realizes their mortal enemies are up to something truly sinister. He tells Jin that the two of them must secretly return to the Kalan ruins in the future to uncover the truth. Jin readily agrees, knowing that with Murakan by his side, he will be safe, and they might even discover the legendary Fountain of Mana along the way. Shortly after the mission, the cadets Kajin and the Haas brothers make it back to Runcandel. Furious over their complete failure, Mew and Anne strip the men of their cadet qualifications and cast them out of the clan as scapegoats. Despite the cruel punishment, not a single person in the clan offers them any sympathy. By June of the year 1795, Jin continues his daily sword practice under the watchful eye of his instructor, Uncle Zed Runcandel. During training, Zed suddenly orders Jin to stop striking the clear rock. He announces that from this day forward, Jin's rock training is officially complete, and only the Tona twins need to continue. Furthermore, Zed declares that Jin is no longer required to attend the morning cadet drills. Next week, the clan patriarch, Chiron Runcandel, will personally grant Jin a formal pledge, officially recognizing him as a trainee flag bearer. The Tona twins can only stare in pure shock and jealousy. Becoming a trainee flag bearer means leaving the Runcandel estate without family support to prove one's worth and amass great honor across the world. For Jin, this is the ultimate opportunity he has been waiting for. Once he steps outside the family gates, free from constant surveillance, he will finally be able to train his magic, spiritual power, and swordsmanship at his own pace and grow into an unstoppable force.